With the British Columbia provincial election going to take place on October 19th of this year, BC NDP Premier David Eby has a lot of problems on his hands. The first of which is that nobody thinks his government is doing a particularly good job on any major issue. Housing, healthcare, taxes, affordability, all of this stuff, the NDP government is severely in the negatives. Another problem David Eby has is that he has no charisma, so he can't even muscle through the policy problems his government has by at least being able to project confidence. The man slouches like he is a human question mark, and he only comes off like an activist whiner whenever he is confronting a serious issue. And now, this is exactly his approach to fighting back against the provincial conservatives, just whining at them. He posted this just earlier today, going after the conservatives for supposedly having radical candidates who say crazy stuff like mandates are bad. But David Eby posted this today saying, "Let me ask you, do we really want these candidates in charge of our healthcare or deciding what our kids learn? Well, yes, because they oppose kids being taught gender theory or having mandates in place to let kids go to school. I think they're perfectly fine, British Columbians, with having BC conservatives in charge." Also, the way he phrases this makes it seem like he's condemning his own NDP candidates. David Eby goes on to say, "For me, that's a hard no. My team and I are focused on what truly matters: affordable housing, reliable healthcare, and easing the pressure on your family budget." And now, before I get into the video where David Eby immediately has a very strange look on his face, why would you ever bring up healthcare if you're the BC NDP? This is what drives me up the wall with the federal Liberals and now the provincial NDP. I'm a conservative all the way. I'm helping the BC Conservatives win this provincial election. But what drives me up a wall is when unpopular lefty governments keep bringing up issues that everyone thinks they suck at, because they do. That's what happens all the time with the federal Liberals. They keep bringing up housing and immigration. Everyone thinks they suck at those. Don't bring it up. With David Eby, I would say stick to talking about the environment, because that's the only issue. That there is a decent amount of BC residents that agree with you. There's a lot of granola, more environmentalist voters that the NDP can appeal to. But don't bring up healthcare. The Mission Memorial ER has closed 3 times in 2.5 weeks, and that's just one ER. Emergency rooms all over British Columbia keep closing because they don't have the staff, and then they come out and start trying to brag that, that we actually hired more nurses and doctors in this past quarter than Alberta did. Cool. Alberta also has more doctors and nurses per capita than you guys, and that's pretty sad considering that Alberta, the province I typically live in, is not very good on healthcare. We do not allocate our healthcare dollars particularly well. We have way too much administration, not enough frontline workers, and we're still doing better than British Columbia. But here's David Eby now going to whine at some conservative candidates because they exercise their free speech rights on X and post things that they think. This is literally the post he's about to criticize. Tamara Leach from the Freedom Convoy posted something, and one of the conservative candidates, Sharon Hartwell, posted, "Thank you, Tamara and Chris. You continue to be an inspiration," which is entirely uncontroversial. But here's David Eby.
Hey, everybody. I've been asked a lot what I think about these conservative candidates who are peddling conspiracy theories and hate in our province. Just a couple of days ago.
Name the hater of the conspiracy theory, and name the candidate that is currently running for the Conservatives doing such a thing. That's not actually a thing. Every party eventually has to get rid of a candidate or two, and now they're trying to focus in on this as a big vulnerability for the Conservatives, because as a new party that hasn't been able to vet people, they had to get rid of 2 candidates. This is not going to be a winning message in the provincial election when, again, people think that your government is failing on multiple fronts.
For example, a Conservative candidate sent out a tweet calling the leaders of the anti-vax convoy inspiring as they face criminal trial for their actions.
This is a weird point. Doesn't David Eby know that 2 of the main people who were leading the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa were vaccinated? Tamara Leach is vaccinated. Benjamin Dichter, who was the one who went on Tucker Carlson's show and was the main messenger for, person doing messaging for the Freedom Convoy, also vaccinated. They were against vaccine mandates. And apparently your government is now against vaccine mandates too, since you just lifted the mandates on nurses and doctors, because you could detect that particular issue was going to lose you a lot of votes. And it probably still is, because it was a little bit too, too little too late to suddenly say, we're going to bring back the nurses and doctors. You could have done it at the beginning by not getting rid of them, but this is why this is such a stupid point. They weren't even anti-vax at all. It was anti-mandate. It was against forcing people to do something that was entirely unnecessary just because the government said so.
Are these the kind of people that we want in the province making decisions about our healthcare system?
It'd be better than you.
About what our kids learn in school?
You think they should learn about gender theory? And our math and reading scores have been going down year after year. So do you think your people are doing a good job? The problem with everything David Eby is saying here is that I, in 2 seconds, can just throw it back in his face. Our reading comprehension rates have gone down. Our math literacy rates have gone down. Everything is getting worse. And now he's going to try and act like, really, you want these people to be in charge of healthcare and education in British Columbia schools and our hospitals? Yes, I actually would prefer it. And even then, it's a little sketchy whenever they say these people are the convoy leaders, and half the time they're not actually people who did anything particularly useful on the ground during the convoy. The actual convoy leaders were the people who were doing all of the on the ground organizing in terms of the road captains directing around trucks, getting people food. A lot of the other people were just in hotel rooms doing news conferences or whatever. But that's a bit of an aside here. I'll let David Eby finish up here whining at the Conservatives.
This isn't an abstract question. We have protests happening at our schools where people are banging on the windows and intimidating kids and teachers. Conservatives voted against a law that would restrict that, and apparently are calling these kinds of protests inspiring. We got to keep our kids safe. We got to make sure that they're able to learn independent of conspiracy political theories. We got to make sure that our province grows and prospers by welcoming everybody. And
also, apparently not keeping kids safe from having drugs not everywhere in our streets. Having people shooting up meth between their toes outside of a school. That's totally fine in David Eby's mind. But what the real danger is a mom maybe getting a bit overzealous and banging on the window because she doesn't like actual books with just full-on pornographic images being shown in them. That's what David Eby is concerned about, is a parental protest getting a little bit antsy. The protesters getting a little bit fired up, but not the actual just mass street violence we have all over the place in BC, where he's kindly coming out and asking if drug users would please stop using illicit substances on our soccer fields. That's David Eby's approach to actual school safety, is saying, can you guys just do your illicit drugs on the sidewalk and not on the school playground? That's actually how he handles these things. That's what he did. He passed a law or order in council basically asking people nicely to stop doing these things. It's never going to be enforced because he doesn't enforce the current camping laws that are supposed to prevent people from just hanging out in public parks with tents and other other sort of makeshift shelters.
And we're going to stay focused as the BC NDP on what matters to people: housing affordability, supporting people with the cost of daily life, making sure that our healthcare system is strengthened so you get the care you need when you need it. And that's what we're going to be doing. And for the Conservatives, they've obviously got other plans.
What is he? They obviously have other plans. Why does everything suck since you've been in charge, though? Everything has been worse. Yes, you've only been the premier since 2022, but Horgan was the premier since 2017, and everything has gotten far, far worse than even when the Liberals were in charge. Nobody should vote the Liberals back, and far from it. BC United's a pathetic party, the party that, Liberals who changed their name. The Conservatives are actually going to do some good stuff, and Eby is just here basically saying, well, that they once said that Tamara Lich was inspiring. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. What? And you have been performing terribly on all those issues. We're going to try and make life more affordable in British Columbia. When were you planning on starting to do that? Because apparently you haven't done it yet. Housing is crazy. The BC NDP recently opened some new affordable housing units in Vancouver, I believe. It might have been Victoria. And they are actively more expensive than the normal market rates for rentable units. They're like $2,700 a month. And these were affordable apartment buildings because the NDP government's completely incompetent. They give out contracts to just whoever. They don't manage them properly. They put a bunch of extra environmental inspection costs and crazy regulations on the construction projects and then make them cost way too much to do. And then even they eventually have to face the economic realities, and they can't offer these units up for something reasonable like $1,200, $1,100 a month. It's $2,700 a month because they don't know what they're doing. But be scared that we had a conservative candidate say Tamara Lich was inspiring. To be scared that sometimes conservatives say things that don't 100% line up with progressives. They went after Brian Burgay, who's a conservative candidate running in Vancouver-Langara a couple months ago, because he criticized, rightfully so, them putting Pride Progress flags on fire engines in Victoria and Vancouver, which is costing tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, when you consider all the different places that they did this around British Columbia, that they're wasting money at the same time people can't afford groceries. And the BC NDP started getting so mad because, oh, are you saying you oppose Pride? I know Brian. He is a social liberal. And he is merely pointing out that you guys are wasting money hand over fist for useless symbolic virtue signaling. At the same time, you're pretending that you care about affordability. If you cared, you would stop with the nonsensical virtue signaling spending right away. They don't, because they consider that a higher priority than people being able to afford shelter in this province. Ugh. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. If you live in British Columbia, at least donate $100 to the BC Conservative Party. I have a link in the description below. To donate, you get 75% back of your money for donating up to $100. So it only costs you $25 to donate $100, because the BC NDP are literally taxpayer funded. They and the BC United get $1.56 for every single vote they got in 2020, and they got 33% of their money back in every riding that they got more than 10% of the vote in. That basically means every single riding. The BC Conservatives also get that per vote subsidy, but it's barely anything when you consider the fact that they would have gotten way less than 50,000 votes, and then the BC NDP would have gotten more than 1 million. It is a way of being able to stabilize unpopular incumbents by making the taxpayer fund them rather than actually requiring grassroots financial support. So if you live in BC and you want to change the government, make sure you donate $100 just so we can actually fund campaigns. Lawn signs cost around $9 to $12 each, depending on who your vendor is. A lot of this campaign stuff is expensive. Make sure to lower the cost for us. So Abbotsford South, it doesn't matter if you live in that riding or not, donate to that EDA and we will distribute money to other ridings in need that we consider winnable. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. Have a good